everybody, and welcome back to Crazy Bees. My name is Debbie. If you're new and if you're just returning, thank you and we appreciate it. I want to show you some of the things that we have going on. I am actually going to have 2 days off this weekend. I'm so excited. That very rarely happens right now. We have been in the middle of doing a bunch of things. We got fruit starting to come in on our trees. We picked a bunch of the apricots, and last night when I got home from work, they were starting to get soft on me, and I knew if I didn't do it right then, I was going to start getting mold, because the juicier they are, that pit starts forming mold. So I did lose a few, not very many, but I have 4 trays of apricots. So what I did was I washed them, then I pitted them, and then I cut them in half, you know, what was left after the pit. So they're all single halves, and we got 4 trays of those, and I am going to put them in these food saver bags. I'm going to mark them Apricots 2024 and put them in these bags and get those back in the freezer. The other thing that we had done on the last video was we did the garlic and the onions. Those are drying very nicely, but when I pulled the garlic, I didn't even realize, and I forgot that I had planted some hardnecks, and when you have the hardnecks, you get the scapes. Now, this is how many of the scapes were left on some of these when I pulled them, and I didn't realize it until yesterday. These have been sitting out for about a week and a half, and you can see this one here is drying nicely. It didn't have a scape on it. This one here, you can see how green it still is in the center, because I've never cut the scape off. So it is true when people say, when you see the scape on your garlic and it's in the ground, cut that scape off, because otherwise your energy is going to keep going into that scape instead of down into the bulb. So I could have possibly, if I had been paying attention, gotten a bigger bulb if I had cut those scapes off. And now it's going to take them longer to dry also. You can use your scapes. You can cook with them just like you would if you were cooking with garlic. They're actually a delicacy. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything with those. And then we're starting to process some of our peppers. The sweet peppers come out first. So these are some of our sweet bananas, and they are very good. I picked a whole handful of those. And our oregano is ready to go. It's been steeping in this for over 2 weeks, and I've been going by and shaking it up every day. So this is ready to be strained out and put in a jar. And your olive oil is usually like a lighter color, and this is what it looks like. It just gets a darker color once it's been infused with that oregano, and it smells really good. And there's a lot of things that you can do with it. So we have that going on. We have some strawberries on the table for another project that I'm going to get into. I went to the market yesterday, and they had cantaloupes there, and they were all very ripe. So I have to get those sliced up. I got to slice up this watermelon. I got a bunch of peppers. I'm going to slice those up along with some cucumbers and some carrots, so that we have those fresh in the refrigerator for snacking on during the week, so we can hurry up and make our lunches during the week to head out the door. And then with the apricots, I also want to, when I'm done with all my work this afternoon, I'm going to treat us to a nice apricot smoothie to enjoy the harvest. Because when you pick these apricots off the tree and they're so ripe, you only have 24 to 72 hours to do something with these before you start losing them. Either they start molding or they start drying up, one or the other. So I got most of those done. We'll probably pick the rest of those up off the tree tomorrow It's later in the afternoon right now, and my main job today is getting that turkey broth and that chicken broth canned up today. I'm gonna get my Camp Chef set up outside. I've got my jars going in the dishwasher right now, and I have to skim that fat off of that broth, because remember we had put it into the refrigerator so that that broth would firm up and that fat would rise to the top, so I can just skim that off, and then I got to bring that back up to a boil. We're going to fill up our jars to within an inch of headspace, and then we have to pressure can those. So that's what we have going on today. So right now I'm going to do the apricots, and then I'm going to get my Camp Chef set up, and everything gets set up for getting ready to can that turkey broth. Okay, we are now to the oregano. I already did the first one, and that is that jar right there. I did get a clean, fresh jar to put the oregano in. Oops. And I packed these in here pretty tight, so that first one was kind of fun trying to get it out of the jar. And my cheesecloth wasn't long enough, so it started folding in. So this one I made a little bit bigger. See if we can grab some of that out of there. I really packed it in there. There we go. Okay. Now I kind of take my cheesecloth and just wrap it around. I have this doubled up because if it was only a single layer, I feel like I would get a lot of the grit from the leaves in there, and I don't want that. So I just lightly squeeze to start pulling out that infused, beautiful oil. You can also press it against the strainer. I like using a cheesecloth just so I can get a cleaner oil. But I don't squeeze it until it's all gone either. Because I don't want the grit in there. But I get quite a bit of it. Waste not, want not, right? Okay. Now we'll take this, and I'm going to put this over here for a second. Okay, now that we've got my hands washed and all that oil off of them, here is, oh, I got some on the table. Here's the jar that's for 2024. So I'm going to finish filling up this jar. And then I also brought in another one. I didn't think it would all fit in that one. You don't want to mix your jar from last year with this year's jar, because then that oil is going to get old and you're going to waste your oil, because just like any other oil, it will start smelling and getting old and age after a certain amount of time. So a year is a good time for you to use up your oils. So this is the oregano for 2024. This is what we have left for 23's oil. So we're set to go. One more project done. All right, you guys, I just came outside to check on some stuff, and look who's visiting our garden. That is the tomato hornworm. That's the second one. Look at the horn on his head. Tom's going to pull him off and bring him in here. Look at him. Look at that horn. Oh, They are nasty, but the chickens love them. You guys, I keep getting distracted. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to my canning. I got the Camp Chef set up. Tom's got it on the propane. And then I saw those tomato hornworms. So then we started looking all over for the place for those, because they were actually on our peppers. I had a beautiful pepper, this one right here, that's behind the asparagus in that black pot right there. Look at, there's nothing left of it. It's just a stem. But it was full yesterday, and that's what I caught my eye first. And then that other one. So then, anyway, we got distracted doing that. Now Tom's filling the bee baths. And then I was seeing these guys are ripe. Well, not ripe yet, but they're getting there. And the birds, I think I still have the one in here. Yeah, it's this one. Right there. Look at that. The birds are pecking at them. So I pulled the ones off that looked like they were ripe at all. And then I was over in the other garden. And we got beans coming in. We had 3 more, but me and Tom started munching on them. And then I thought, oh, I got to put my beans on the video. Anyway, we had 2 contenders, which were the green ones, which we already ate. And then we're starting to get the dragon's tongues coming in. So that's fun. And now I need to get back to getting this canning done. Okay, here we go. This crock pot has been through it. It did a lot of work. This is the chicken broth. I'm going to get that done first so that I don't get it mixed up with the turkey broth. The first thing that we're going to do is skim off all of the fat particles that are sitting there on top. And then we're going to pour it into that kettle that I have sitting on the stove. There's really not that much fat on here, which is great. These are the chicken bones that came from Tom doing that smoking. So this broth is going to have amazing flavor. Okay, here's what we're going to do. The dishwasher has been running. These jars are very hot. I'm going to put them inside of this so that I can carry that outside. I have a towel in here so that once this is full, because it's going to be heavy, so they're not sliding around. So we're going to fill these jars. Hot jars, hot liquid, hot canner.
Hot mess.
How he puts up with me, I don't know. We need to fill these to 1 inch headspace. And that's pretty much right at the neck of the jar, but I'll show you what I use to test that. So let's go there. So to check the level of your liquids, you want to use this measuring gauge. The base of this you can use to stick in your jars to get rid of any air bubbles. But this here has different measurements on it for the different headspace that you need for your jars. When you're doing pressure canning, you want 1 inch. So I'm going to stick this in here, and then you want that to, that bottom peg to be right at your liquid level, and that's where mine is at. So we're good on that, and that is right about the neck of the jar. So let's get these filled up. And outside on the Camp Chef, we've got that turned on a low heat right now, just so that water in the bottom of that, which has to be 2 to 3 inches, stays warm, because we want to put our jars into a warm canner. All right, wow, just have a tiny little bit left over, so that's awesome. I can actually put just a little bit more in there. Ah, that was perfect. Okay, we're going to check that headspace one more time to see if we can put just a little bit more. I can put just a smidge in this one and a little tiny bit in that one. Okay, I learned that you do not want to overfill your jars. That can create a huge disaster. And I had a washcloth ready to go. And I used it on something else, so now we need to get a new one. So I have a clean washcloth here, and we are going to wipe our lids, or our rims of our jars. That's empty, that ain't going to do no good. And then we're going to go into my water bath canner and grab out our magnet. They say now that you do not have to sterilize your lids with the water, but you know, if something works, I say don't change it, and this is how I was taught, and this is what I'm going to keep doing. You don't want to boil your water, but they're nice and hot. I just think it helps with the seal. So then you're going to take your bands and you're going to screw those on there, just fingertip tight. You don't want to do it any more than that. One time I didn't put my lid on right, and I went out there and I had stuff all over in that canner. So make sure they're on right, but don't wrench them. And now we're going to take these out to the pressure canner. Okay, now we are out at the pressure canner. I can feel the heat coming off of this, but it's not boiling. And we've got approximately 3 inches of, 2.5 to 3 inches of water in here. So now we're going to take, our jar lifter, and we're going to put these in the canner. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, now we are going to put the lid on, lock it into place, and we're going to wait for steam to start coming out of this. Need to turn up the heat. Be back in a minute. Okay, you guys, I'm going to zoom in here. Do you see the steam coming out of the canner? Now that has to vent for 10 minutes, and that is necessary. You want that to vent for 10 minutes because there could be air trapped inside of that kettle, and it needs to release. So all of that needs to be able to release in order for your pressure canner to be able to build up the pressure that it needs to build up. So When you get a nice stream of steam coming out of that, you want to start venting for 10 minutes. And then we'll come back and go to the next step. Our timer has just gone off. So now we are going to put on our weight over the vent. And now we got to bring it to 15 pounds of pressure. And you can tell that by the gauge. It'll start moving up, and then you need to keep an eye on it. And once it hits that 15 pounds of pressure, quart jars take 25 minutes. Pint jars take 20. So once it gets up to 15 pounds of pressure, then we will set the timer for 25 minutes. And you have to watch that gauge and make sure that it stays at the 15 pounds of pressure. So you may have to adjust your heat a little here or there to make sure that it stays where it's supposed to. Now, it's 15 pounds of pressure because my elevation is 1500. And in the ball canning book, it says between 1000 and 2000, you need 15 pounds of pressure. Between 0 and 1000, it's 10 pounds of pressure. So we're going to get this up to the 15. Okay, we are now at 15 pounds of pressure. And our little bobber, the little weight, is rocking and rolling. So I've got my timer set now for 25 minutes. And we're just going to leave it alone and let it do its thing. Our timer has gone off for the 25 minutes. The only thing we're going to do now is turn off the heat. Okay, now we do nothing. We let this come down to 0 pressure, and once it's come down to 0 pressure, then we can take the lid off. We're at 0 pounds of pressure. Our gauge is now at 0. We can now take off this weight. Okay? Then we can take off the lid. You want to open it away from you, because these jars are still very hot and there is still a lot of steam in there. Now I'm going to give this another 5 minutes to let it come to the air temperature, and then I'm going to pull these out and I'm going to set them over here on this table. And then while this was coming down to temperature to 0, I was getting the next batch ready. So those jars are hot, the liquid's hot, this is hot. I'm going to have to add a little bit of water into the base of this canner, because some of that dissipated, and then we're going to start that next batch. Alright, you guys, we are back at it. It's the next day. We got done late last night processing that other batch of turkey broth, and now I have 6 in here, and I've got 2 more in the house that still need to be processed. I just turned the heat off on this. It's coming back down, and once it reaches back to 0 pressure and this little guy goes down, we can take that knob off and let everything cool for a little bit. Then I can put the other 2 quarts in here and be done with the broth. I'm very happy to have that back in my pantry again. That was so convenient to have that. And this morning, first thing, we went to Schnepp Farms. It's peach season, and I bought some peaches, so we're going to be doing something with those. And then we have other things planned for today that will probably go on another video. But let's see how this goes.